Time is 12:45 and having lunch near Sawpit Creek. I've got the solar panel out charging the Zyme battery. It's a bit cloudy overhead, but when the sun's fully out I was getting 2 watt from the panel, which is a 13 watt solar panel. The Sony action camera needs a little bit of charge, so I try simultaneously charging the action camera from the Zyme battery while that's being charged from the solar panel. Unless it's full sun, then the action camera won't charge. Looks like it needs minimum amount of power and voltage from the battery to charge, and if a battery's being charged from the solar panel, then that requirement doesn't seem to be met in marginal sunlight conditions. If I disconnect the solar panel from the Zyme battery so that the battery's just charging the camera, then it charges. Same situation with the Sony external charger too. Time is 2:40 PM and just arrived at Pond Creek. It's overcast. Gonna camp here tonight, doing this experiment for solar panel. I've got both the 13 watt solar panel and the 3 watt solar panel. Both panels producing about 4.6 volts and both seem to be charging the Zyme battery. Both solar panels seem to be producing very similar power and both seem to be about 0.08 watt. Overcast, as I said. This is the first time I've used the Trek 700 Fusion Caldera cone in the wood burning mode. Yesterday it rained, so everything's wet. Had to resort to using a bit of a metho to get it lit. First course was the French onion soup, followed by the pasta. This is the first time I've used the Trek 700 Fusion Caldera cone in the wood burning mode. Yesterday it rained, so everything's wet. Had to resort to using a bit of a metho to get it lit. First course was the French onion soup, followed by the pasta. The firebox of this stove not very big and only feeding little twigs, so it goes for a bit and then you keep having to keep adding more twigs. When it dies down I just add more bark and leaves, and then it starts to smoke a lot, and then when they catch it starts burning and gets the twigs burning. Time's 10 to 8 and it's the 5th of August. Sun's just appeared at the head of the pass. It's quite a gap over there. So I'm camped beside Pond Creek, which is a little tiny creek. We'll see it when we return. Nice spot here. Disappointed that the valve on the thermarest was missing. Have to find out from Aaron what's happened to it. So no inflation at all possible. I've tried out the wood burning Caldera cone for the Trek 700 pot. Cooking the porridge at the moment. Last night, feet were warm, legs were warm, had the down jacket on and the Van Gogh sleeping bag, but wouldn't say I was cold, but sort of bordering on getting cold. Had to put the beanie on and was wearing the gloves, but this morning in the vestibule the temperature was only 0 degrees Celsius, so no frost, no condensation, nothing. So not sure what was different there, because I've been much colder with the Van Gogh sleeping bag and not felt cold, but wasn't shivering or anything like that, but just had the feeling that maybe because of the lack of air mattress underneath, starting to feel cold up from the ground, who knows, but that's what was feeling like last night. But got through the night okay, so I'll probably got the fire set for nice coals to cook the porridge, and then might try my hand pancake after this. Wouldn't say it was running that well. Might be staying to candy as well. The biggest problem I had making the pancakes was that the frying pan's not level. That's because the stove underneath is not sitting level. It's in two halves, so I'm not sure whether the top section is causing the problem. All the mixture flowed over to the corner, and since the frying pan's much bigger than the top of the stove, had to have the frying pan right over on the edge, could easily topple off. Also didn't have the pot grip, so had to use the chamois to hold the frying pan to get it on and off. I've got the solar panel out charging the Xiaomi battery. Where I'm camped, a lot of tree cover, so not the best place to be charging it when it's in full sun. I'm getting about 2.3 watts from the 13 watt panel, but usually it's much less. And also there's some clouds running past which also blocks off the sun. I've been trying to compare the 3 watt panel with the 13 watt panel. In bright sunny conditions, the 13 watt panel beats the 3 watt panel hands down, but in marginal conditions the 3 watt panel can produce enough power to charge the Xiaomi battery, albeit at low current, whereas the 13 watt panel in these low light conditions might not even be charging at all. Time is 10:18 and all packed up now, and I'll leave the campsite as I found it and return back to Aurora Valley via Caldera Gap, so it's repeat of yesterday's route in. Time's 12:24 and I think been here almost an hour, probably a bit over an hour now. Had lunch, cup of coffee, and I've had both my solar panels that I've got today out in the sun. Been pretty bright sun, it's nice and sitting here in the sun, not too hot, not too cold. And learned a bit about the solar panels. I've had the most power from the 13 watt panel I've ever seen before, and that was from the 13 watt panel into the Xiaomi battery, and I was just nudging 5 watt. When I first started charging the Xiaomi battery, the power was down not much more than 2 watt, and it was also matching this power from the 3 watt panel that I was getting the Xiaomi battery. But then after a while the 13 watt panel power into the Xiaomi battery increased markedly. Also been charging the phone, and when it's connected to the 13 watt panel it's producing in excess of 4 watt as well. So when I first started charging the phone it was 57%, because I've been using the phone a lot for monitor and taking some photos, and now it's, when I last checked it was about 92%, so it's almost fully charged now. And I've had that charging mainly from the 13 watt panel. So the power monitor at the moment is monitoring the output of the 13 watt panel, and it's connected to the phone. As I've said, the power is 3.4 watt. Which is a current of about 700 milliamps, and voltage is 4.98 volt. So probably pack up soon and head back to the car. It's now Monday, 6 August, and the time is 10:30 AM. To follow on from the tests I did at Pond Creek with the solar panels, I've put them out at the back porch, and it's a very overcast day bordering on light drizzle. I've got the 13 watt panel, the 3 watt panel, and I've added to the experiment the Goal Zero 7 watt panel, which I took to Scotland. I've got my doubts that this panel's working as well as it did when new, and just to fill in the story, that the panel I took to Scotland sort of died while in Scotland, and it was producing much less power at the end of the trip than it was at the beginning, and it was replaced under warranty. The panel I've got under test is a warranty replacement, and it's hardly ever been used, and I've still got doubts as to whether it's working as well as it should. So in this experiment with very dull lighting conditions, I've made these observations. In these experiments, I've got the panels tested sequentially, connected to the Zyme battery. Needless to say, it's not charging in these dim conditions. The 13 watt panel is producing insufficient power to even operate the power monitor. The 13 watt panel is a failure to even operate the power monitor. The 3 watt panel is producing 3.5 volts, and current is 0.46 milliamps. It fluctuates a bit. The 7 watt panel is producing 2.3 volts, and the current is 2 milliamps. In this, the second test, I've got the panels charging the PowerMonkey battery. In the first test, I've got the 7 watt panel connected, and it's only producing 2.05 volts, and the power monitor displays very dim. The current is 4.3 milliamps. Now the 3 watt panel's connected, and the voltage is 4.07 volt and current 2.1 milliamps. With the 13 watt panel connected, the voltage is 1.9 volt, and the power monitor displays very dim, can't read the current. Needless to say, the PowerMonkey Extreme battery is not charging either. With the same conditions and charging the PowerMonkey battery, the 3 watt panel is producing 3.9 volts and current 1.5 milliamps. The 7 watt panel is producing 1.9 volts and current is 4.5 milliamps, and the power monitor displays very dim. The 13 watt panel is now producing 2.3 volts, so the power monitor display is readable and the current is 3.4 milliamps. Time is 11:02 and got a brief sunny spot now. I'll repeat the same experiment with the panels all in sunshine. The 3 watt panel is producing 4.4 volt, current is 138 milliamps and power 0.6 watt. The 13 watt panel is producing voltage 4.49 volt, current 330 milliamps and power 1.5 watt. The 7 watt panel is producing voltage 4.2 volt, current is 14 milliamps and power 0.06 watt. All 3 panels were connected sequentially to the PowerMonkey Extreme battery, which is giving indication of being charged. This experiment confirms that the Goal Zero Nomad 7 panel is not working at all properly. I've now connected up the power monitor to the Xiaomi battery, so all 3 panels will now be charging the Xiaomi battery. The 3 watt panel is producing voltage 4.67 volt, current about 100 milliamps and power 0.57 watt. The 13 watt panel is producing voltage 4.7 volt, current 195 milliamps and power 0.6 watt. The Goal Zero Nomad 7 panel is producing voltage 4.3 volt, current 0.8 milliamps and power 3.4 milliwatt. Well, I don't expect the Xiaomi battery is being charged because 4.3 volts is too low a voltage for it to charge. So the Nomad 7 panel not charging, whereas the other 2 panels are charging the Xiaomi battery, and there is sunlight on all panels. Actually, the thermarest valve is working after all. When I got home, I had a better look at the valve and found out that it had been tightened too much in the open condition. That's why I thought it wasn't closing, because generally I don't have it tightened open. With a bit more torque, I was able to release the valve and wind it in to seal the thermarest. It's now maintaining air pressure nicely.